So now I'm going to demonstrate for you one of the recipes and one of my personal favorite ones that we do in Common Threads, just to kind of go over how you should work with the kids when they are actually getting into the cooking process. You want to make sure, most important, as you are working with them at the stove, they shouldn't be unsupervised. So once the kids have measured all their ingredients, they have everything ready, I like to put it all out in separate bowls and bring it over to wherever you are cooking. Make sure they wash their hands before they start cooking. That's another very important thing. All of the recipes for Common Threads are very, very clearly laid out with all of the cooking techniques, all of the ingredients you're gonna need, and all of the equipment. Makes it super easy for you and the kids. What I'm gonna be demonstrating for you is orange beef. So, what you want to do first, obviously, is you want to get whatever cooking utensil or vessel that you have, and I happen a really awesome wok. So the first step is getting your cornstarch and soy sauce mixed up into a bowl. And again, the same with the dry ingredients, with the teaspoons and the tablespoons. You want to show them when you're measuring out the dry ingredients not to overload. So you want to do the scoop. And some of these measuring have these really cool little whatever you call them, to make sure that it's nice and level. So we're gonna do our cornstarch in the bowl, and then 2 teaspoons, small t, emphasize that, of the soy sauce. Then what I like to do when there's multiple things to measure out and you have all of these kids that wanna do everything, kind of assign them each their own thing to measure out. So everybody has a turn and everybody feels like they have participated in the recipe. And I always say, if you don't get to work in the stove today, you can always do it next week. So we are going to whisk this together. So you're gonna whisk your soy sauce, your cornstarch, and a little bit of the orange zest in a bowl first. And with the stove, again, you want to be there to supervise with yourself or any of the volunteers that you have, because this is going to be hot, and we also want to practice safety with the kids. So the first thing they're going to put in, after everything's been cut out and measured, we're going to do a tablespoon, big T, big spoon of the olive oil. And this is emphasizing the liquid. Make sure it's all the way at the top and put it in the wok first. So you want to make sure that you stay with the kids and kind of explain to them what's going on at this step of cooking. This is a good opportunity also to talk to the kids about anything maybe that you didn't talk about at the beginning as far as the culture of the country that you're visiting, or any important cooking terms that you want them to remember from the day. So what we're waiting for is just to make sure that this beef gets nice and brown. This is another time that if you can have one kid stir this, and then after a couple seconds hand it over to another kid, so everybody has a chance to see what saute looks like and what the meat looks like. You know, try not to have 2 or 3 groups up at the same time. If you have a small kitchen space, they can always take turns. I mean, if there's a recipe that needs to be on the stove and another recipe that could be made at a station, you can kind of organize it that you have just 1 or 2 groups on the stove at one time, the other groups finishing the stuff over at their stations, and then rotate. Always want to make sure that you keep the kids and yourself and your volunteers safe. So now that the beef is nice and brown, we slice this really, really thin, so it shouldn't take that long. We're going to add our vegetables and our spices. So we're going to be putting in our garlic, 1 teaspoon. And 1 teaspoon of fresh ginger. And then all of the broccoli. And then mix that up. And I like to talk to the kids again about all of the colors that we're putting into our food. Ask them, what colors they see going on in the dish that they're making and how, it looks really good, and talk to them like, what do you smell? What do you see? What's going on? Keep the kids engaged the entire time that you're cooking with them. So once the broccoli is a little bit crispy and the meat is cooked, the last thing that you want to add is that mixture that you made at the beginning with the cornstarch, the soy sauce, and the orange zest. And then mix it all together. And you want this to cook a little bit before you serve it, because the cornstarch is going to make a nice thick sauce. And last but not least, you want to talk to the kids about flavor. So salt and pepper at the end. And this is where you can utilize those tasting spoons. If you don't have your tasting spoons to measure out, you can always grab a tiny little measuring spoon. And I always say, rein your spices in. Don't just dump it in, rein it in. So a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. Rein your spices in, and then mix it up a final time. And then with this lesson, you're serving this over brown rice. And we talk about why brown rice is better than white rice. So the brown rice, you can cook that. What I like to do is cook it before. It's one of the things I do in class before the students get there, because brown rice does take a little bit longer to cook than white rice. And have that ready and show them that. It could be something that you talk about. It can be a visual that you talk about in your lesson before class. And then at the end, you're going to serve this beautiful orange beef over the brown rice for their meal. So another thing that you're going to be teaching the kids in Common Threads is portion control. So another activity that you can have a group do if they're done with their cleaning is serving everybody. So you want to make sure that you give them the proper measuring cup so everybody gets the same amount. For the brown rice, we're going to be doing half a cup. So half a cup of the brown rice. And this is the one, it's okay, you don't have to do the scoop and scrape with this one. So just half a cup of the brown rice first. And then a half a cup of the orange beef. It smells so good. And again, talk to them about how pretty it looks and how good it smells and how excited you are to eat with the kids. I like to make sure that the kitchen is clean, all the volunteers are done, so you can sit and eat with the kids as a group. That's another opportunity that you can sit and get to know the kids better. I kind of like to eat with one group one week and another group another week, and just talk to them about their day, what they liked about the food, would they make this at home with their parents, how it's different than what they've had before. And that just starts a conversation, and get to know your kids, talk about the food, ask them what they liked, so they have more a connection of what they made that day. So another fun thing you can do for this day is you can bring in some chopsticks for the kids to use. The last thing you want to do is you can garnish the plate with a little bit of sesame seeds, and that kind of brings it all together, and you're painting your plate with more color.